Wreck My Podcast.
Hey now, you're an all-star. We'll get our Shrek on and podcast. This week on Wreck My Childhood.
Wreck My Podcast.
Welcome to Wreck My Podcast, where this week I'm joined with my guest. She calls me her valiant steed. It's Madison.
Hello.
And I am the Muffin Man. I'm your host, Jordan.
You are the Muffin Man.
Who lives on Drury Lane?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So this movie, Shrek, is like our demographic. Just we grew up on this thing, right?
It's a classic for us.
We had to cover this,
right.
And it popped up on Netflix. I'm not sure if it was on there for like super long, but we saw it on Netflix.
Yeah.
And we're like, you know what? We got to watch this. So now we're doing a podcast on it, which is a lot more information on it than I thought I would have. I thought I'd just be like, oh, this is a fun one. But this one has like a ton of information we're going to talk about, which is a lot of fun. So let's get into our first segment here. Just in case you haven't seen it in a while, I'm going to explain the plot of the movie really quickly, and then we can move on from there.
Yep.
Oh yes, it's time for Jordan to explain the movie quickly.
Shrek is an ogre who just wants to be left alone, but after Lord Farquaad uses his swamp as a refugee camp, Shrek and his new friend Donkey go on a quest to retrieve a princess for Lord Farquaad in exchange for the swamp back. The catch is that the princess is guarded by a fire-breathing dragon. Shrek and Donkey make a great team, though, and rescue Princess Fiona. Although Shrek rescues Fiona for Farquaad, Fiona and Shrek fall in love on the trip back to the castle. But a misunderstanding leads to them leaving each other. Fiona almost marries Farquaad, but Shrek objects at the last second to tell Fiona he loves her. True love's kiss between Fiona and Shrek turns Fiona permanently into an ogre. Then Shrek and Fiona live happily ever after.
The end.
The end. So, when was the last time you had watched this movie before we just recently watched it?
Like at least 10 years.
Yeah, I feel like I probably haven't seen this in my adult life. If I have, it was once at some point that is I don't have no memory of.
There was a point where my brother and I think it was like around the time that I was like in 6th grade. So my brother would have been like in kindergarten.
Yeah.
When my mom started going back to work.
Yeah.
She would leave us for like 4 hours in the middle of the day. And during summer, this was one of the movies we would watch like at least once a week.
Yeah.
So I feel like I watched it a bunch and then probably after that. So maybe it's been more like 15 years.
Yeah. I feel like this is that movie where, we watched a ton as kids. So we know it very well. But more recently, we've only really ever seen it like if you're at the haircut, like a hair salon, like at Great Clips, and they're playing movies on the TV, and it's just like there.
Yeah.
Or, like,
I mean, it was to the point where I never saw the second and third one. Like I had only ever. To this
I think
day,
I
I've
saw
only
the
seen first
second one in theaters when I was younger.
Okay.
But I think that's where I stopped, which is funny because Shrek is a huge property. It has like 4 movies
and a
musical, which we're going to talk about.
Yes.
And it was based off of a book originally, which we're going to talk about as well. So Shrek is huge.
Yeah.
Not just literally as an ogre, but figuratively as the property. So the thing is, though, what's funny about Shrek, right, is it kind of has a lot of adult humor that I never really picked up on as a kid.
Absolutely.
Like, I picked up on a few things that I thought was clever, and I'm like, oh, I'm so mature. Because I picked up on, like, when they're singing the song about Welcome to Dunlap or whatever the place is called, and, like, they're going to rhyme, and it sounds like wipe your ass.
Yeah.
But then they're like, say
Clean
something.
your shoes, wipe your face.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I thought I was so clever as a kid.
Yes.
But they make a joke about, like, giving someone head in this.
They make a lot of jokes, which I told Jordan about this when we watched it. So my mom's grandparents were very strict Christian grandparents. Like, they were not your, like, loving, like, they were loving, but you know what I mean? They weren't, like, the fun-hearted, like, they were very staunch. Like, they were pretty much my second parents.
Yes.
Like, and I remember when I had watched this movie and I was obsessed with it, I told my grandma, like, we should watch Shrek. It's about, like, fairy tale princesses and, like, a fairyland. And my grandma was like, okay. And my mom was like, no, like, you cannot watch that. And I was like, I don't understand. Like, I love that movie.
Yeah.
And now watching it as an adult, I'm like, of course she didn't want me to watch that movie with her. It's a bunch of, like, potty humor.
Yes, it really is.
And B, it's filled with like innuendos and stuff for an adult humor.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's part of the reasons movies like this do well, is because it's kind of fun for the adults who are taking their kids, and also the kids, obviously it goes pretty much over their head when they're young enough.
It's perfect for both demographics. Which leads me to my next question. Did it wreck your childhood rewatching it?
No, I thought it was really good.
Yeah, me too. I thought it was very, very fun.
I feel like one of the things, I'm interested in hearing if you agree, one of the things that makes a movie stand the test of time is the soundtrack.
It's very true.
So I feel like the soundtrack makes me happy. So I'm always going to like want to watch this movie, where sometimes the soundtrack kind of like outdates it or makes it not so good.
I feel like the soundtrack of this movie is actually its downfall. I think for us, because it's nostalgic, we like it. Yeah. But I don't think it's a timeless soundtrack. I think it's very reminiscent of like, obviously Smash Mouth a lot in it, who like, what are they doing these days? And, a lot of other like kind of pop rock songs from like the 90s.
But they have the Hallelujah song. That's like my favorite song of all time.
That's in every
movie. I know.
That's like every Zack Snyder film ever made has that song.
Also, I can never get enough of Eddie Murphy singing, and I know that sounds sarcastic, but I'm actually being serious.
Yes.
So.
Which you introduced me to Dreamgirls, and I did not know he could sing that well.
Oh my gosh.
I'm a fan of Eddie Murphy anything, so I'm happy with him being in this movie.
Also, am I correct? He's kind of like a skis ball in real life, right? Like, he's been in a bunch of trouble. People don't like him.
Kind of a little bit more like,
because he's so talented.
Yeah, more like he's rough around the edges.
Yeah.
So I think that in this day and age, he really hasn't been called out for things. But like, I think he had some trouble back in the day. But the reason he didn't get in more trouble is because that was back before people really looked into these things. Oh,
I see.
And so he kind of cleaned up his act before. But I think he is known. He's like, I don't know a specific, but I want to agree with you that I've heard things that, he's kind of
like skeezy. He's not a good person in real life or something.
I want to say yes, but I don't know for sure, so I'm not going to besmirch the name of Eddie Murphy here.
I'm just saying he's very talented.
He's very talented.
Is what I was going for.
We remember Eddie Murphy in roles like this, roles like Mushu.
Dr. Dolittle.
Dr. Dolittle. We remember him as kids being
not Dr. Dolittle. What is the one I'm thinking? Nutty Professor.
And Nutty Professor. He was both, wasn't he?
But I didn't watch Dr. Dolittle. I watched Nutty Professor.
Well, we remember him as like this like kid-friendly, fun guy. When in reality, that's not really who he is, especially if you watch his stand-ups. He's a little bit more vulgar and all that. But like, it's kind of like Robin Williams. He got lumped in as like, because he's so like, he can be so kid-friendly, but that's not his only thing.
Right, which is fair.
Yeah, but I love, that's a nice boulder. So let's talk about some things I noticed here while we were going through the movie. Why? So when Lord Farquaad is given the three options, like the dating game, and it's like Snow White.
It's the Bachelorette.
Yeah, it's Snow White, Fiona,
and Cinderella.
Why wouldn't he pick Snow White? Because he literally put Snow White in Shrek's swamp, so he knows where Snow White is. She's sitting over there. To be fair,
though, he might not, because he ordered his henchmen to go out and get all the fairy tale creatures. But what I was more so thinking is, why does he want a fairy tale creature if he hates fairy tale creatures?
Yeah, that's super weird too.
That part doesn't really make 100% sense.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's just so horny that he doesn't care.
They aren't fairy tale creatures. They're princesses surrounded by fairy tale creatures.
Yeah, but he put her in there too.
Yes, because she was asleep, though. Remember, she was still in her
but they could have been like, hey, my boss would probably want to marry her, so
yeah, I just thought that like Snow White would have been a way easier princess to capture. He's like, let me pick the hardest one.
Although Snow White, it's a good thing he didn't pick her, because she would have only been awake by True Love's first kiss. And if he and her were not true loves...
So what you're saying is Cinderella would have been the better one to go for. Because she already knows how to cook and clean.
Yeah, which apparently is his dream.
Yeah,
so who knows?
It's all good. Yeah, so I thought that was kind of funny there. I'm like, why are you picking... I guess he picked it because his executioner's like, pick number 3, my lord. Yes. So he's listening to his executioner.
Also, she's different and new.
I guess that's true.
Yes.
That's true. And there's something about Mary.
Yes,
so,
yes.
The music budget on this had to be astronomical, because they picked, like you said, Hallelujah, like the most famous Smash Mouth songs at the time. There were some other like classic songs in there. Yeah, exactly, like some very famous songs. So I feel like, they had to pay quite a bit of royalties to get these songs in there.
DreamWorks was pretty big, though. Wasn't this DreamWorks?
It was DreamWorks.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like they did a lot of big stuff.
Yeah,
so
you're right. Well, I think this was the first time they actually had a property this big. Like,
yeah. I just meant I could see them funding this because they're a big property. I feel like
now they could because Shrek has really like bankrolled a lot of stuff going on. And they have How to Train Your Dragon, which was like a big thing. And I think Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs now.
Stuff.
So they kind of, DreamWorks has like some Minions, I think is part of it. But anyway, I was also wondering there's always the fairy tale, right? And about the girl in the high top castle, no one comes around. I'm like, how do they eat? Like in Tangled,
I know
the evil mother person witch thing brings her food and all that.
Correct.
But like Fiona's just alone up there. I'm like, how has she been eating for the past 15 years?
To be fair, there could be a fully stocked kitchen,
maybe
like The Shining.
Yeah.
Just like somewhere in the castle.
Maybe.
I mean, who knows?
Some Mormons.
But yeah,
were,
she's locked away in the highest room in the tallest tower.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
maybe
that's a long walk.
Maybe the dragon
brings her stuff.
Like goes and kills some things and barbecues it for her.
And she doesn't know that she's been a cannibal this whole time.
Also, she is an ogre, so she probably is just eating like insects and like live animals and stuff.
Maybe.
Yeah, so maybe that's how. I'm going to justify it that way. But for other princesses who are stuck in towers by themselves. Because
that is a very classic fairy tale trope.
What are they eating? Is that why they're so skinny? They're just literally...
Yeah.
They got like body dysmorphia now because they haven't been able to eat forever.
But they still always have amazing boobs. So,
they always do, yeah. I think most princesses would just like fall forward and wouldn't be able to like... They'd have a lot of back problems.
Yeah.
So the slow-mo Zack Snyder moment.
Yes.
In the dragon
when
sequence.
They're running away.
They're running, like, and then they jump, and it's like the fire, and I'm like, okay, Zack Snyder, like, what's going on here? And we're coming off of watching Justice League, where, like, half of that movie could have been cut down.
Yes, I was going to say, anytime we see any slow motion, anything now, we're like, who directed this? Zack Snyder? Like, come on.
It all started with 300, and now every movie is the same. It's like, all right, change your style up a little bit.
You can't overdo it.
Yeah, change your style up a little bit, bro.
Yeah.
Pretty sure Lord Farquaad was getting a boner at one point.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
So there's this weird scene.
Which is funny because I'm going to tell you what I thought as a kid, and then you tell me what you thought as an adult.
So I never noticed how sexual the scene was, but there's a part where Farquaad's like in his bed with like a glass of wine.
Yes.
And he's having the mirror like pretty much play him. Essentially what would be porn is how he's reacting to it, but it's just like him watching Princess Fiona kind of thing. But like he's reacting to it like he's getting turned on, and then there's like a little like bump in his sheets, and I'm like, okay, this is how did this go over my head?
So when you come in and you see him and he's laying on the bed, he's like, mirror, mirror on the wall, like, show me Fiona again. And then so he like replays a scene. It's just her, just a picture of her with music playing in the background. And then when it pans over to him, his like sheet kind of falls, and then he like makes a little like smirk and like pulls the sheet back up. I thought that was him being embarrassed, like she saw him. Like, he was like, oh my gosh, my chest hair. This is so embarrassing.
No, I think
And then now, as I watched it as an adult, I'm like, okay, they're really playing into this, being like, why else would he be here alone in a room staring at a woman, like, asking for him to play the video again?
Yeah, the only thing they're missing is a box of tissue on the bedside.
Yes,
so, I mean...
Yeah, so I think you're absolutely right. But as a kid, I thought it was like he was embarrassed.
Oh, of course, we were way more innocent as children.
By his nakedness, but no. He was unembarrassed.
He isn't Adam and Eve, babe.
No, he's not.
So the last thing I want to mention here is I remember specifically there being a mid-credit scene where they all are like singing songs and doing karaoke.
What do they sing?
They sing "I Like Big Butts." I remember.
Yes, they sing "I Like Big Butts,"
and then they go, "I get feelings." Yeah.
Yes.
So like
they didn't show that.
They didn't show that on this, and I was like, wait a sec.
But this was back in like the DVD era where maybe there was like special features,
and that's what I looked up. Is I'm pretty sure it was only a VHS DVD thing. Like in theaters, they didn't play that mid-credit teaser. It was only for.
It also wasn't mid-credit.
Release.
I think it was at the end.
No, it was mid. I'm almost positive it was mid-credit.
Okay.
Like, yeah. But anyway,
I used to love it.
We sat for a bit and we were watching it, and it didn't pop up, and I was like, what the heck? That was like a whole part. It's like watching A Bug's Life and not seeing the blooper reel. Like,
yes.
Come on, it's part of the movie.
I know. They're so fun when they think of stuff like that.
I know. So that was kind of a bummer that on Netflix or Hulu or wherever we watched this, that didn't have that. Like, come on now. Okay, so let's talk about this movie a little bit, about when it came out, who's in it, all that kind of fun stuff.
Sure.
It came out May 18th, 2001, so I was 12.
Yeah.
You were
9.
So there you go. It had a $60 million
I wasn't
budget.
9 yet. I would have been 9 the next month.
Yeah, you were
Not
close
that
to
that
9.
matters.
You were close to 9. It had a $60 million budget, which is pretty big for an animated film at that time. But it grossed $267 million in the United States, $487 worldwide.
I could see that.
So
this was a big deal.
Big deal. It's got an 88% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 90% audience score. People love this movie.
Yeah.
And I think it holds up. So I agree with them that I think it deserves those ratings.
Can I tell you a fun fact, by the way? So Jordan can attest to this. People, mainly Jordan, give me a hard time for my frugalness. Let me tell you where I get this from. When Shrek came out, you could go to McDonald's and stuff, and they would have like the toys and stuff. But at the time, you could get like glasses.
Yes,
and
I
like
remember the glasses.
Bowls. My parents still use those.
I know. The Shrek bowl with the ogre ears. I see them they're displayed in the curio cabinet.
Yes. And all of their glasses are either glasses that they've taken from when they got a drink at a sporting event or the Shrek glasses.
Or a Dickies cup.
That's what I mean. Like it's like a takeaway cup.
Yeah, always.
Or it's a Shrek cup.
Yeah, it's funny.
It's been going for 20 years.
Yeah, when we stayed at your parents' house last time, I'm pretty sure I ate cereal once out of the Shrek bowl.
It was in preparation.
Yep.
For this.
Exactly. So this was directed by a duo, Andrew Adamson and Vicky Jensen. They've also directed The Chronicles of Narnia. So this is based off of a children's storybook, also called
I did not
Shrek.
know that.
Yeah, it's by William Steig. We'll talk about that more later. I'm going to talk about the differences, but it is like a picture book. So it's not like a book you would sit down and read as an adult. It's definitely like a children's storybook. But we'll talk about kind of like how they adapted it and stuff. And I'm pretty sure William Steig did like a bunch of books. And I want to say it was like the 80s or something, but we'll see. I wrote it down somewhere, I'm pretty sure. So we'll see whether or not I get to that. So Mike Myers plays Shrek, famously, you know.
Classic. Wayne's World.
Yeah, Wayne's World. Mike Myers, Austin Powers, the love guru, I guess, if you're Kreger.
Your favorite, So I Married an Axe Murderer.
So
and by
I think
you,
I
mean your father.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love that. Woman. I love that movie. Eddie Murphy plays the donkey. Again, we don't really need to sing his accolades.
We already talked about him.
Yeah, you know who he is. Cameron Diaz plays Fiona. Something About Mary, Charlie's Angels. Everyone kind of knows who Cameron Diaz is.
The Mask.
John Lithgow plays Lord Farquaad. Third Rock from the Sun. He was in Dexter. He plays Barney's dad in How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, he's classic.
He was in the Twilight Zone movie remake in the 80s. Like, John Lithgow's a very big actor.
Yeah.
Jim Cummings voices one of the guards. And I wanted to mention him because if that name sounds familiar, it's because I brought him up in past episodes before because he's the voice of Winnie the Pooh. And he shows up in voice acting stuff a lot.
Interesting.
Yeah, so Jim Cummings was in this movie as a guard, which I'm like, are you going to get Winnie the Pooh to play like a nobody character? Come on now. Like, give him a little bit more to do. Frank Welker makes the noises for the dragon. And the reason I wanted to mention Frank Welker is because he's the voice of Shao Kahn in the Mortal Kombat live action movie, as well as some of the video games. And he also voices Megatron from Transformers.
What an interesting career.
Yeah, right? So that's pretty cool. And then the same composer for this movie, which there's a little bit of composition because there is some like non-royalty music and stuff like that. But it's the same composer as the Bourne Identity movies, the Bourne movies. Also solo A Star Wars Story he composed.
What?
So this dude, his career, Shrek in 2001, almost 20 years later, doing solo A Star Wars Story.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
That's
and then like
crazy.
Born Identity somewhere in there too as well.
Oh my gosh.
So that's pretty cool. So that's the cast isn't very big.
No.
Really
centered around like 4 or 5 main characters.
Yeah, exactly. And no one else was really of any major note who voiced like the mice or anything like that. So kind of didn't bring them in there. But yeah, the voice cast is very well-known voices, so you can pick them out. Mm-hmm. Like Mike Myers doing his fat bastard impersonation pretty much, but then like Eddie Murphy, classic voice that you can pick out anywhere. Cameron Diaz, classic voice you can pick out anywhere. John Lithgow, classic voice you can pick out anywhere. Like, so they did a good job with casting this.
I think they did too.
I liked it. So let's talk about some fun facts. I got a lot of fun facts here.
Okay.
What is facts? Baby, they're fun. They're fun. Oh yeah. What is facts? Baby, they're fun. They're fun. Oh, yeah.
The principal actors never met each other. They all read their parts separately, with a reader feeding them the lines. John Lithgow later admitted that while he enjoyed playing Lord Farquaad, he was a little disappointed that he never actually worked directly with Mike Myers, Cameron Diaz, or Eddie Murphy. So sometimes they get the cast like in a room and do the voice acting together so they can feed off each other and stuff. But this one, they didn't. They were just like,
how interesting.
We're going to read you the lines and then you act.
I wonder if they all were just so busy that they just had to...
Maybe it was also cheaper because... No, why would it be? It would take more time in the studio. It's just weird to me that they did.
Yeah,
it
maybe
that way.
they had such busy schedules or something.
Could be because this was the time when they were all very popular too. Mike Myers originally voiced Shrek with his natural speaking voice before the film was test screened.
With his accent and everything?
Just his regular voice. No accent. Like Mike Myers speaking.
Just him talking.
No.
How weird.
Yeah, that would have been super weird. But then he tried what they call a country Canadian accent for Shrek. However, after viewing the rough cut of the film, he felt that something was missing and re-recorded all of his lines with a Scottish accent based on the voice his mother used when reading him bedtime stories as a child.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, it says the original voice can still be heard in the technical goofs on the DVD. So... like, you can still... It's kind of like,
I want to know who has a DVD of this still.
I know. That would be cool to find out who has a DVD of this. But this is almost like when you see, like, the scenes filmed of What's-His-Face in Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Why am I thinking... Why can I not think of his name?
I know. You were just talking about him
I was just talking about him the other day, too. Whatever. The whole movie was pretty much filmed with a different actor than Michael J. Fox. And there's, like, footage out there of it and everything. There's, like... total footage of like the whole movie with him just his regular accent. Like,
that's
how
so
weird is that? But it says the decision to revoice Shrek in a Scottish accent ended up costing an additional $4 million because it took 20 sessions to complete the revoiceover. It said, and then it says here that you can also say Shrek's voice is kind of similar to Fat Bastard.
Does that mean that if they had originally a $60 million budget, this movie would have been $40 million for their budget, and then they spent an additional $20 million?
No, additional $4 million.
Oh, $4 million. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
For some reason,
but
I
still
thought
$4 million tacked on just to revoice, which is probably smart because that's like the iconic part of Shrek is his voice. So I just feel like Mike Myers.
Also, $4 million in a studio. I mean, is that a lot of money for them?
I mean, probably
if their
not.
Total budget was 60.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like an extra
yes
5%.
And no. Yes and no. That's like adding an extra $5,000 onto buying your car, pretty much.
Yeah.
Here's what's interesting, though. Does anyone know what Mike Myers sounds like? I feel like all of his roles are him doing weird impersonations and accents.
Yeah,
like
that's part of him being a comedian. Yeah,
definitely not his voice.
Yeah,
Austin Powers, definitely not his voice.
Yeah.
Love Guru, definitely
even
not
on
his
SNL
voice.
and stuff, very rarely.
So I'm like, maybe we wouldn't have thought it was that weird.
I think I've seen like one monologue of him doing SNL.
Yeah,
in a voice.
So
without a voice.
So I think I Married an Axe Murderer is probably the closest to his normal voice as he would ever do. But I just think that would be so interesting because, like, we're like, oh yeah, why would we want to hear Mike Myers without his Scottish accent? But also, do we ever hear Mike Myers without an accent? So maybe it would have worked. I don't know.
Yeah, weird.
Could have been interesting. So famously, Chris Farley was originally cast as Shrek and recorded most of the dialogue. However, after his death, that's when the role was given over to his Saturday Night Live partner, Mike Myers. It says Shrek's air quotes in the film. I forget what part, but he does like the air quotes. That's supposed to be an homage to Farley that they did because he has that like down by the lake, whatever that guy's name is. So that's kind of that's
really nice.
I think it's Bennett Brower. Is that his name? I can't remember if that's his name or not.
I have no idea.
But anyway, there's a story reel featuring a sample of Farley's recorded dialogue that was leaked to the public in August of 2015. So it's out there on the internet if you want to hear what the Chris Farley version was kind of like, which would just make me sad.
Yeah.
Because Chris Farley would have done great. I'm such a huge Chris Farley fan, and it's such a bummer, his untimely death and everything. It's so sad. But yeah, that was like kind of the infamy of this movie. It's like Chris Farley was originally casted. He died while filming, and then Mike Myers took over. But Mike Myers, I don't believe, wanted to take over. I think there was this whole thing where he felt like it was kind of in bad taste, and they really had to kind of push him, and he kind of had to talk to some people and be like, "No, I think Chris would want you to do this and everything." And like,
also, if it's his friend, it's like,
yeah, that would be hard.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't want to take over something my friend was doing at the time he died. Like,
also, I feel like not that Mike Myers would feel this way, but I'm like, he might be like, I am not your sloppy seconds.
Yeah.
Like.
It's true.
Why does he have to be passionate about the role just because he was friends with somebody who was doing it?
It's true.
But it's nice he did that.
It is nice.
Sure.
And it's probably was more like, okay, I'm going to finish this thing he started.
Yeah, exactly.
And it blew up into a huge movie, so it's good
the
he
poor
did.
people at the studio had to listen to Chris Farley do it, and then they had to listen to Mike Myers do it, and then they had to listen to Mike Myers do it again.
Yep.
They're probably like, we are done listening to this dialogue.
They're probably sitting there thinking this movie's going to flop. What are we even doing?
Yeah.
So funny. So the song All Star by Smash Mouth, heard in the opening credits, was only a placeholder for the test screenings, and they were going to find a new song to put in for it. But the test audiences loved it so much that the producers kept it in. When the producers decided to keep All Star, they decided to let the band perform the last song of the movie, I'm a Believer, as well.
Yep.
So the I'm a Believer was only made, that would have never gotten made if test audiences didn't like Smash Mouth, which I'm a Believer is a monkey song.
How amazing how much power the test audiences
It's
have.
true. I kind of always wanted to in LA to find out how to become part of being a test audience.
Yeah.
I think most of the time it's random. Like if you're there on a weekday Tuesday or early morning Saturday, they're like, because I've been to a movie theater before, we're like, hey, we're screening a new movie that is like a fake name they give you. Do you want to watch it? And then you tell us what you think. And you take a little survey afterwards. And I remember being like, nah, I'm fine. But I would actually like to be a part of that.
One of my favorite ones is that 70s show. You and I are huge fans of that show. It was called something else.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what it was, but it was 100% this is what it's going to be called.
It was called Eric Foreman's Basement.
No, there was a different.
Oh, was there
a different one?
Because I always remember them being like, it was going to be called Foreman's Basement or The Basement or something like that.
Something to that effect. But then every time they would ask people to be like, oh, yeah, it's that 70s show.
Uh-huh.
And then they're like, look, we're just going to roll with it. This is all they're referring to it as. This is what people are going to refer to it as. And I'm like, I love that. That's so cool that they listen to the
Friends
people.
Thing, too. It's always referred to the one with.
Yeah.
So,
what was it Nocturnal Cafe or something like that? I'm like, can you imagine if that was the name of Friends?
Oh, yeah. Insomnia Cafe.
Yeah. It's like,
that would have been
what the heck?
Awful. A terrible name. Sometimes the name really does make or break a show.
It does.
Yeah.
For
That's
sure.
pretty funny. Shrek has his own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
I did know that.
Yep.
Yes.
So there you go. The film's art director Douglas Rogers visited a magnolia plantation in Charleston, South Carolina to do research for the look of Shrek's swamp. He ended up getting chased away by an alligator. So there you go. Shrek means monster in Yiddish and is derived from the German word Schreck with a C, which means terror or fright.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
Computer animation production started on the project on October 31st, 1996, and took more than 4.5 years to complete.
Holy moly.
I mean, computer animation still takes a long time to do, but this was back when it took forever to do.
Well, they're on the kind of the cusp of technology.
It was right at the beginning of Pixar. They started with Pixar pretty much. Mike Myers was in New York City when they realized that the line, "What are you doing in my swamp?" had never been read. So producer Jeffrey Katzenberg flew to New York City and had Myers read the line in the back of a limo. So they missed the whole line. They're instead of bringing him all the way out here, the producer just flew there.
How did they record it 3 times and didn't get that line?
I know.
Oh my gosh.
So bad.
But also it's because they don't record it all in what's it called? In order.
It's not linear.
It's never in order.
No, you record them in parts and pieces.
Right.
I mean,
so
come on.
Sense.
You have a script. Check off what you've
I
got.
know.
It's not that hard.
That's so funny.
So here's a bit of almost casting, fantasy casting, if you will, that I'm oh, this actually would have worked so well. Alan Rickman was initially casted for the role of Lord Farquaad.
Okay, I was going to say, please tell me Lord Farquaad.
Yeah. However, Rickman opted to portray the role of Professor Severus Snape in Harry Potter instead the same year.
Smart.
Smart. Way smarter. But how awesome would it have been to have Alan Rickman?
Thing, is that most of our generation knows Alan Rickman from being Snape.
100%.
If he was Lord Farquaad, I don't think everybody would have known him as much.
Well, yeah, it's funny. You're right. My first introduction to Alan Rickman was
Snape.
My parents probably took me to that movie and they're like, what is Hans Gruber doing here?
Yes.
Or the guy from Love Actually.
Right.
Although Love Actually came out, I think, 2 or 3 years later.
But that's the character we know him as.
Yeah, exactly. Which, Alan Rickman, man,
so
great actor.
Smart thinking on his part.
Huge smart thinking. I mean, who didn't look at Harry Potter and think, yeah, I'm going to pick Harry Potter over anything.
Over 3 Shrek movies.
Yeah, like if you were given the choice of Star Wars or Harry Potter, you probably would have a little bit of a dilemma.
Yes.
But Harry Potter and most other properties, you're like, nah, Harry Potter.
Harry Potter's the way to go.
So some viewers have complained that Robin Hood was English and should not speak with a French accent. But it should be noted that in the film, he refers to himself as Monsieur Hood, never as Robin Hood. So people are always like, Robin Hood was an English guy. Why does he have a French accent in the movie? But I mean, it's not. Yeah. It's, you know, Robin Hood's long lost cousin.
Yeah, because they call him Mr. Hood.
Monsieur
they don't
Hood. Yeah. So there you go. That's how you get away with that one. Shrek was almost made in stop motion animation, but early tests provided too costly, and executives weren't pleased with the overall look and lack of facial expressions in the main character.
Fair enough.
After live-action miniatures and motion capture graphics also proved unsatisfactory, the studio went with computer-generated animation. We just watched The Nightmare Before Christmas over this last weekend when we recorded it.
The patience these people had
Patience,
to have.
and also, you're right, it's a very unique art style that only works if you're, like, in certain circumstances. It looks hokey and bad most of the time. Something like The Nightmare Before Christmas, it's supposed to be spooky and, like, over-the-top and fantastical.
Correct.
Something like this would have not looked good. It would have looked like the claymation holiday movies that I'm not a huge fan of.
And I love them, but you hate them. Yeah, I know what you mean.
So I'm glad they went computer generated. Yeah. I mean, it's the way of the future.
Sure. I can see that.
Last fun fact here. Earlier in his film career, J.J. Abrams worked on this film, credited as Jeffrey Abrams before he was going by J.J., and he was part of the Propeller Heads, is what they called themselves.
Okay.
A computer animation group which was under contract by Jeffrey Katzenberg to develop animation for the film. So J.J. Abrams kind of got his start early in his career on this film.
I mean, I feel like J.J. Abrams is in or around everything.
Yeah. No wonder this dude is like so prolific now, because he really was a hustler back in the day.
It seems that way.
He was hustling. Like, he was really going out there and like trying to do all these things. Now, you know, he's responsible for things like Lost, terrible ending. The new Star Wars, terrible ending. Star Trek, terrible ending.
Firefly didn't get an ending.
No, that's Joss Whedon.
Oh, it's Joss Whedon.
Yeah. J.J. Abrams,
oh my gosh, I thought... Okay,
J.J. Abrams is Cloverfield, Super 8, the new Star Wars movies.
I always hear J.J. Abrams and I think Joss Whedon.
No, Joss Whedon is the Marvel films.
Okay.
Firefly, Dollhouse, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yes. I never made the connection that they were different people.
Joss Whedon is more like the fantasy comic booky side of things, where J.J. Abrams leaned more into the science fiction thriller side of things.
Got it.
Joss Whedon, though, you know, kind of in some hot water recently, so who
Fair
knows
enough.
what we're going to see with that guy anymore,
Rightly
you know?
so.
But J.J. Abrams, he hasn't gotten caught on anything yet. So J.J. Abrams seems like a really nice guy, though.
I'm just saying, with like how it goes nowadays, everybody's going to get canceled for something.
But J.J. Abrams just seems like a really nice family guy.
Yeah,
family man
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, I knew him when he was Jeffrey.
Right, clearly.
Jeffrey Jordan Abrams. All right, so that's all my fun facts. Let's talk about this Shrek musical here real quick. If you're interested in the Shrek musical, it is on Netflix. I'm tempted to check it out.
I've only heard the songs.
Yeah, I'm tempted to check it out, but I also don't want to because I've seen still shots of it, and it looks horrific.
We're watching it.
Okay, we'll watch it. That's fine. But let me tell you a little bit about this Shrek musical. It opened in 2008.
Yep.
It finished its national and international tour in 2018. Mm-hmm. So it was touring in some form or another, whether it was West End, Broadway, international, national tours, for 10 years. 2018, it stopped. I don't know if they were planning on doing another one down the line, and then COVID maybe got in the way or what happened. I don't know. But
I doubt it.
2018 was kind of the last tour that's on like the list of all the tours they've been on. That was like the last one they did was end of 2018. A filmed version is available to watch on Netflix, like I said. So, you know, if you're sick of Hamilton on Disney Plus, and
who are you if you're sick of Hamilton?
Sick of that, you know, go watch this instead. Started development in 2002, so it took 6 years to develop, kind of workshop, all that kind of fun stuff. Most expensive musical ever at the time.
Yeah.
Which I feel like every new big musical always tries to be the new most expensive musical. Like, isn't that what they said about the Spider-Man one too?
I feel like what's hard is that probably the wardrobe and the amount of characters you need.
Well, also the dragon is probably a giant set piece.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Like, a lot of stuff like that would probably be quite expensive to make happen.
Yeah, I think so. Like, Hamilton has a very cool stage presence, but it's not overly complicated.
It's the same set the whole time.
It's the same set the whole time, and they really kind of
they play with the lighting.
They play with the lighting, they play with the circular middle thing and all that. Where I feel like this, they probably have to build sets for each different section. A lot of different plot pieces. Like,
there's got to be so much stuff.
It's got to be expensive on the back end, for sure. I agree. And then, so the plot is almost identical to the movie. One of the main differences is that we find out Lord Farquaad is the son of Grumpy, the dwarf. So he's actually related to a fairy tale creature, which is part of the reason why he hates him so much, is because he resents his dad.
That's so dumb. Grumpy was not a king of anything.
No, I think that Lord Farquaad took the throne by force. Okay. Is what they're saying. Like, he wasn't born into royalty. He created Duloc and made his own kingdom, but didn't allow fairy tale creatures in because, let's be honest, he's just a Hitler in different skin.
It's a little far-fetched.
Yeah. Maybe it's funny. I don't know if we're gonna watch it.
Yeah. Well,
maybe it's a good plot point. I don't know. Okay, so let's talk about the book here. William Steig wrote this children's book that this movie was based off of. So here's the main differences between the book and the movie. The book gives Shrek more of a backstory, including parents.
Okay.
The book doesn't give you any motivation for why he's going on this quest. He just is going on a quest to find a princess. And that's it. Starts
weird.
With him being like, here's Shrek. He's an ogre. Here's his parents. They live in a swamp. He's off on a quest.
Okay.
No real other backstory than that. He talks in poetic verse throughout the book, which makes sense as a children's book.
Yeah.
But also that's way more mature than the Shrek we see in the movie.
Correct.
The Shrek we see in the movie is kind of like a country
potty
bumpkin.
Humor, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last thing that's a big difference is he meets Donkey along the way, but they don't become friends or travel together. It's just in a kid's book, you're like, and he goes through the field and meets so-and-so. And then he continues on and meets so-and-so. And then he goes here and he does this. It's just one of the plot points along the way that they're a talking donkey and everything. So they did take a lot of liberties.
I think I agree with the liberties they took then
adapting
on
this
that.
movie. Yeah. So that's all the stuff I have.
Very nice.
Yeah, Shrek. Great movie, great fun. It's good for adults. It's good for kids. It really does stand the test of time. I feel like
I think it did.
You want to have fun with remembering something from your childhood and you haven't watched it recently, go check out Shrek.
Right.
It's good stuff.
Very good. I think it definitely stood up even these 20 years later.
I agree. So if you like this show, there's some things you can do for us. You can go to wreckmypodcast.com, or you can check out our Redbubble store where you can buy some merchandise, or you can go to our Instagram where you can follow us there. Or our YouTube channel. We sometimes have video. This one, really an audio-only episode, but most of the time it's me and Joe, Craig, or Cam, the other co-host, and we're talking about things. And you'll see our beautiful faces. Sometimes
beautiful.
Sometimes greasy faces. Sometimes hat-wearing faces.
Right.
Yeah. Patreon is a place you can support us,
yes.
Which is very, very nice. We appreciate it so much. We have different tiers where you get different rewards. For just $1 a month, that's our lowest tier, but we have all the way up to $20 where you can kind of control some of the things we do. All the different tiers, no matter what level, every month moving forward, we're going to be doing a raffle. And how we're going to be doing it is the amount of dollars that you give is the amount of raffle entries you get every month.
Nice.
So you do $1 a month. You get access to our one Patreon exclusive only episode every month. If you're not a patron, you're going to have a week where you miss out on something we talk about. But you also get an entry into our raffle. If you're a $10 Patreon, 10 entries, so you might win. And it's got a lot of fun stuff we give away, like Star Wars memorabilia, different pins from Loot Crate and other areas. Like a lot of just fun pop culture things. And I'll let you pick. That's the fun thing. It's not just, hey, this is what we're giving away this week. Now we do the raffle. And if you don't like, let's say, Star Wars, and I'm giving away a Star Wars thing, it's like, oh, too bad.
Right.
No, I'll be like, no, I have Star Wars. I have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Princess Bride, Firefly, all different things that you can pick from. I think I even have RoboCop 2 on DVD where I'm like, if you want RoboCop 2, boom, you got it. So fun stuff over there. Go check out Patreon. But if you're like, I like these guys, but I don't want to give them my money, hey, you can support us by giving us a rating or a review. Go to your podcast listening vessel of choice and give us a rating or a review. In fact, if you give us a review on Apple Podcast app and then give me an Instagram message, I'll send you a sticker. So that's how much we really appreciate.
I even got my sticker.
You did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we stuck it. It's on your back, and it's going to be there forever. I don't know.
What?
I don't know. All right, guys.
Oh, my God.
So that was Shrek. This is us, not the TV show.
No.
But literally us
This
talking
is
into microphones.
us, yes.
And we'll see you all next week.
Bye.
Wreck My Podcast. Wreck My Podcast.